Hi everyone. For today's project, or for today's discussion board rather, we're talking about our behavior change project. I'm doing mine at my place of employment. I work at a day program for adults. We do a lot of vocational stuff, like our main activities are based on recycling. The person I'm working with we'll call Cornelius for our purposes here. He's a 22-year-old man with autism and moderate intellectual disability. I decided to work with him because he really hasn't been doing a whole lot of work with his group. He's been sleeping a lot, so I wanted to see if I can kind of motivate him to work with the group a little bit more so he's getting more out of our day program. So our target behavior for Cornelius will be using the shredding machine. I found this activity works with our guys a lot. It tends to be a reinforcing activity on its own. A lot of the guys find it fun. You just slide the paper into the machine. The machine grabs it, pulls it through, makes a humming sound. It's pretty a lot of sensory reinforcement with it. So the exact definition of the target behavior I'm going with is using the paper shredder will consist of sitting in a chair in front of the shredding machine and feeding between 1 and 5 sheets of paper by hand into the loading section of the machine until the machine begins pulling paper in, and waiting until the sheets of paper are completely pulled into the machine before loading more paper. So the 1 to 5 thing, if there's more than 5 sheets of paper going in at a time, it'll jam. So we don't want them just grabbing stacks of paper and shoving them in there, because that's been a problem in the past. So I'll try not to read off of my paper any further. I just wanted to give you the exact definition of the target behavior there. So to record this behavior, I'm going to use duration recording. So the observer is going to have a stopwatch, or more accurately, the stopwatch app on their phone. And whenever Cornelius is sitting in front of the shredder feeding paper into it, the timer will be running. So if he gets up, we stop the timer. If he starts loading more paper and then he showed, we stop the timer. But otherwise it's running, and I made a little data sheet with a few slots to record it. And then at the end of the day, we add up all the times he was shredding. So that's how we're recording that. So I've taken baseline data. So far I've been approved for the project, and I'm onto the baseline phase. I've recorded a little more than a week of baseline sessions because there was a big spike in the data on one of the days. Like one of the days he used the machine for about twice as long as he normally had been using it. So I wanted to get a few more data points to establish a baseline, stabilize the data. For the reinforcement phase, we're going to be using a preferred activity, and we're going to have goals. So I'm going to set the first goal based on the baseline. That's looking like the first goal is going to be using the shredding machine for 10 minutes a day. So if he hits his 10-minute mark for the day, he'll be able to have access to a reinforcing activity, which in Cornelius's case is watching a music video on one of our tablet computers. And I'm going to let him watch it for a minute because we don't want him satiated on the reinforcer. So that's going to be what the treatment phase looks like. We'll increase or decrease the goals as we go to make sure he gets access to the reinforcement. This is a pretty simple project. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just going to go with an AB reversal design. So we're in the first baseline phase now. It's looking like I'm ready to move on to the treatment phase. The data's kind of stabilized. So I wanted to get at least 5 data points of treatment. Then we'll go back to baseline phase. We'll remove the reinforcement. Again, I'm going to go with 5 data points unless it's kind of all over the place, up and down. So, and then once that's stabilized, we'll go back into a second treatment phase. So the time's looking pretty good right now. Yeah, it's progressing along. I'm pleased with what I'm doing here. So that's my post for now. Thank you. I look forward to discussing this in the comments.